Hey, my name is Daniel. Welcome to my table. We're talking about Song of Solomon, and we are on actually day number 2 of the Solomon Song 90-day devotional. And so right now we're just jumping right into this, and she is the bride is speaking to the groom, and we're going to flash back and flash forward and go between the groom and the bride throughout the book of Song of Solomon. So it's important to understand who is speaking to who, because honestly, in this book you have the God who is the groom. He's a picture of the groom, and us as the bride. And if you're a man, you're probably thinking, well, I don't know if I want to be a bride. But the truth is, it's you got to look at it, you got to take your mind out of that equation, and you have to put it in a different perspective. When you read the Song of Solomon, you have to see it as pursued and pursuer. God is the pursuer, and you and I are the pursued. Whether you're male or female or not, it doesn't matter. There is not one person on this planet that does not want to feel desired, does not want to feel pursued, does not want to feel loved or valued. And so I don't really care about gender on this when I say this, because I can put myself in that box as someone who wants to be pursued and desired. And so when I look at God pursuing my heart actively, this wasn't God sitting up in heaven very casually. Look at the painting, of God, right? He's up in heaven, it's Michelangelo's painting. And you have God, with his hands stretching out to man, and man is very casually lifting his fingers up to touch God's hand. And that's pretty much how it really is. It's God straining. With John 3:16, I'm straining to reach out in love to man, and man very casually lifting his hand up. And so when you and I look at God, understand he's not casually just sort of laying his hand down. He is a strong pursuer. And he says, you can hate me if you want to, but I'm going to make it very hard for you to ignore my pursuit and my advancement, my fanatically consistent level of pursuit for your heart. And so when I look at Song of Solomon chapter 1 and verse number 2, I see that she has already spoken about his kiss. And we looked at that in the last video. And right now she says the statement, she says, because of the savor of thy good ointments. This is chapter 1 and verse number 2. Thy name is as an ointment poured forth, therefore do the virgins love thee. This passage is powerful because as I look at it, she speaks a couple things. You got to notice what she's speaking, where she's at, who's speaking. You have to kind of pay attention in the book, and that's where the beauty and the richness of this jumps out at you. She says that his smell, like he has a fragrance, and she says, because of your fragrance, of your name, like you have a smell. Your skin has a smell. Your coffee has a smell, right? And it evokes a certain feeling about you. There's certain smells that will evoke feelings, right? So you have good smells. If you have little kids, you've taken long road trips, there are smells that happen in the car that evoke this feeling of either, we got to pull over now, or, they'll forever carry a memory with them. When I was in college, I had been homeschooled most of my life, or my entire education, and I went to a college and I lived in the dorms. It was my very first time to actually be around people all the time that were the same age as me. So it was a brand new shot. It was almost like Gomer Pyle came to the city, she was, I am, looking around. And I remember when I wanted to go on a date, I remember one of my roommates saying, well, how do I do this? Like, what do you do? How do you go on a date? And he was like, well, it's all easy. He said, you gotta look nice, you gotta smell nice. And I'm like, all right, making a little list, look nice, smell nice. I wasn't quite that backwards, but I didn't know what to do. He said, well, you gotta go get a cologne. I said, well, what kind of cologne should I get? He said, well, pick something that you like. Okay. So I went to the mall and I was going to go to the Kohl's or JCPenney, wherever it was, and get a cologne. And I walked back to the store called Botanical Gardens, and they had this big sign in the window, 70% off all colognes. And when you're a college student, cheap is the best, right? So I looked at it, I was like, hey, that sounds really, really great. And so I walked in the front door, and I should have known. There were like 7 salespeople, and I walked in the front door. They were all like, hey, how can we help you? And I should have known, there was a reason why there were 7 salespeople with nothing to do, because nobody was going in the store. It was going out of business. I didn't know. I said, well, I'm just looking for a cologne. They said, oh, we can hook you up. We have a massive deal here. We can get you the cologne, underarm deodorant, hairspray, gel, shampoo, body wash, the whole thing. And they had led me to this big wall full of glass beakers. And they said, just pick the scent you like. Well, I'm trying them all out. I'm like, this smells good, but it smells like flowers. This one smells like my grandmother. I'm just going through picking different scents. And I get one, and I was like, oh, the lights from heaven shine down, the holy choir singing, and it was the smell of fresh cut grass. Now, when I was growing up, I loved that smell. I used to cut grass out for our family out in the farm, and it was just acres of grass, and I would cut it, and it smells good. The dew hits it, it was just like a very, it's just strong, I'm like, I really like this, and my roommate's words were echoing in my head, just pick something that you like, I'm like, I like this. And so they made me up this aftershave and this cologne and this hair gel. I said I want all of it, right? The body wash, shampoo, and man, I was in heaven. I got back to the dorms that afternoon for my date, and I was showering, I was lathering up big foam on my head, it smelled like a field of hay out there, the whole bathroom smelled like this field of fresh cut grass, and I was loving it. Man, I slapped it on there, rolled it on there, and I'm walking down the hallway, I could tell by the way I walk, and I'm just like all proud of myself. I'm like this. I sit down on my date, and the girl across the table, she goes, what is that smell? Oh, that smells really strong. What is that? Dr. Sheets read, there's certain smells that whenever I pass by fresh cut grass, I think of that. And, there's roommates this day that still keep in touch with me on Facebook or whatever. They'll say, man, I miss that fresh cut grass cologne, because it stood out to them. Whenever you smell that smell, you think of it. And she said the bride was talking to the groom, and she says, there's the smell of your name. It evokes a fragrance within me. And we memorize smells, and we forever associate those smells with a memory or with a circumstance or a situation, good or bad. The bride is expressing to her groom that his name calls to mind a fragrance. There's a sense of power that comes to mind whenever she smells and inhales the fragrance of the name of Solomon. Solomon, it was power, it was wealth, it was strength, it was protection. That was attractive to her, and it brought to mind emotion that stirred her heart. God's name on our ears stirs our hearts with emotions and feelings. When you hear God's name used, it causes you to inhale a fragrance of what you know about God. If God has been your provider, when you hear God's name, you inhale that provision fragrance that he gives off in your life, that God is my sustainer. Like Abraham, he said, God, you are the sustainer of me. If God has been your protector, maybe God has protected you in a situation in life where you should not have come out of this thing alive or in one piece, and God did, and you're here. Whenever you inhale the name of God, that fragrance of God's name in your heart, what comes to mind is protector. And someone else may know him as provider, but you know him as your protector. For some of you, his name evokes blessing, power. His name causes you to think about what he has added to your life's journey, and that fragrance is powerful. Let me ask you a question for the video here, and that is, what fragrances come to mind when you think about God? What has he been for you? The bride looked at the groom and she said, whenever I call your name, Solomon, it brings to mind stuff that makes other people crave you as well. When she called, it's like, hey, the Savior, your name is as an ointment poured forth. When I think of God, I think of the times that he's delivered me. I think of the times that he has sat me down at this table and spoken to my heart at a time when nobody else would speak to my ears. I think of the times where he's been with me on the dark times and the lonely times and the broken times. I think of the times he's protected me. He's had his hand on my life. He puts words in my spirit and on my heart. He gives me opportunities to share those with people. God he's not just a name that you say as an expression. He's not just a name that you throw out because it's the churchy thing to do. The name of God, for me, evokes a lot of feelings. What does God's name evoke in your heart? When you identify that, you're like the shepherd girl. You're like the pursued. You say, God, your name, stirs me and causes me to run after you. I couldn't go anywhere else. Like the disciples said to Jesus, where are we going to go? We've seen too much with you. And he said, are you going to leave me also? He said, where would we possibly go? We've seen too much of your fragrance to go anywhere. We're with you, God, from here on out. tomorrow's video, we're going to talk about, our next video rather, we're going to talk about standing in the king's spot when the king brings her into his bedchambers. It is powerful. I can't wait for you to see this. This is a revolutionary one coming up. Can't wait for you to see it. Thanks for being with me today.